3 years later, Sandra finally made up her mind. On the anniversary of her husband Clement's death, she would visit his grave for the very last time, bid a final farewell to her past, and step into a brand new life. After Clement passed away, she had sworn she would never love again, but years of lingering loneliness had made her realize she could no longer drown herself in grief. Brushing off the heavy sorrow weighing on her heart, she picked up the flowers, determined to close this chapter of her life for good. Derek was already leaning against his car, waiting for her faithfully. He was Clement's best friend and the man who had quietly looked after Sandra for 3 long years. When he saw her, a flash of surprise flickered across his face before he smoothed his features and held out his hand. Sandra slipped her fingers into his, returning his gentle squeeze. No words were needed, they both still grieved the loss of their dearest person. "You look lovely, Sandra," Derek said softly as he walked her to the passenger seat. As they drove out of her upscale neighborhood, he reached for her hand again, lacing their fingers together to soothe her. Sandra smiled at him, wordlessly reassuring him that she was fine. Today, she was not only letting go of her late husband but also freeing Derek from the burden of taking care of his best friend's widow. When they arrived at the cemetery, Sandra got out of the car immediately without waiting for Derek to help her. She refused his offer to carry the flowers herself, insisting she was all right. Derek stared at her quietly, sensing a subtle change in her demeanor yet unable to pinpoint what was different. Little did he know, Sandra had already mapped out her new future, a secret she dared not let him discover. Sandra knelt before the tombstone, gently brushing away the fallen leaves and dust before placing the bouquet in the center. Her fingers traced the engraved words, "Beloved husband, brother and best friend." Derek called her name softly from behind, breaking her train of thought. She turned and asked him to wait for her by the car, wanting a few moments alone. Her unusual request puzzled Derek, for she had never asked to be left alone at Clement's grave before. Still, he agreed hesitantly, telling her he had taken the whole day off and she could take all the time she needed. Once Derek was gone, Sandra stood facing the grave and spoke her heart out. She told Clement she would always love him, but 3 years of endless loneliness had left a hollow void in her soul. She had never resented him, knowing he had given her all he could. Yet there were quiet, hidden needs deep inside her that Clement could never fulfill. Today, she was finally ready to let go and start over that very night. She had found a specialized club called The House, hoping to explore what she had always lacked and fill the emptiness in her heart. Regardless of the outcome, she had to try, and she needed to say goodbye properly to the man she had loved so deeply. With one final look at the tombstone, she squared her shoulders and walked away resolutely. On the drive back, Sandra told Derek she had lunch plans with her friends and arrangements for the night, so he did not need to accompany her. Frowning with undisguised concern, Derek pressed her for an explanation. Sandra told him calmly that she was tired of playing the grieving widow after 3 years. Her husband was gone and would never return, and it was time for her to move on. She turned down his offer to check on her after her lunch, saying she had relied on him long enough and wanted to stand on her own. A flicker of anger flashed in Derek's eyes. He told her firmly that she was never a burden. Clement was his closest friend, and both Clement and Sandra meant the world to him. Sandra was grateful for his devotion but remained resolute in her decision. When they reached her home, Derek walked her to the door and warned her that he would not disappear from her life simply because she wanted to be independent. He then turned and left, leaving Sandra staring after him in surprise. Sandra then drove to the Lux Cafe in Westheimer to meet her best friends, Sophia and Carla. The 2 women instantly noticed a striking change in her demeanor. Sandra admitted she was no longer the same woman, for new changes were on the horizon. She mustered up her courage and asked Carla about the dominant-submissive relationship she shared with her husband Ken, eager to learn more about how such a dynamic worked. Sandra confessed that though she had loved Clement with every fiber of her being, she had always harbored a secret, unfulfilled craving for dominance that her husband could never satisfy. Plagued by persistent loneliness, she hoped to embrace new experiences to fill the void left by Clement's passing. She had thoroughly researched and visited the house, confirming it was a safe, well-monitored venue for newcomers like her. Her friends were deeply worried, fearing she might get hurt from reckless decisions. Carla earnestly warned her that honesty, clear boundaries, and a safe word were essential for such relationships. She stressed that Sandra must choose a considerate partner who understood her inexperience, reserve the right to stop at any time, and limit all explorations to the secure, public club environment instead of going home with strangers. Though Carla's warnings gave her momentary pause, Sandra had thought long and hard about her choice. Choosing her husband's 3-year death anniversary for this new beginning was deeply symbolic to her, and she refused to back down.